Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Caregiving and Entrepreneurship Reimagined podcast. And y'all, I am dying. I am so excited about this week's episode because if you joined us last week, I had my guest, she's now a repeating guest, Christy Byron Yates. She's an author, speaker, coach. And last week, in case you missed last week's episode, which I will link below, so go watch it if you need to catch up. But we talked about just the balance of being a parent and multiple roles of running a business, trying to take care of yourself, meet the needs of your kids, or maybe some other role that you have in your life, and just how to balance it from a healthy standpoint without sacrificing your well-being. So, Christy and I dived hardcore into that topic last week. So definitely click the link below to go watch that episode if you haven't already, because it's amazing. So, but this week, Christy and I, because gosh, I could not cram everything that we wanted to talk about into one episode, and I didn't want to overwhelm y'all. So this week we're talking about caring on the go, because realistically, being a caregiver isn't a role that is just confined, excuse me, y'all, to just inside the home. It is something that happens while we're out running errands, while we're going to church, while we're going to school events, with our kids, or family gatherings, right? You know, Christmas, holidays, or the spring breaks coming up in the next 2 weeks for a lot of the schools in our area. We're getting ready. I have friends that are having spring break next week, and then and like our daughter, she has hers at the end of the month. So we're starting to travel. The weather's getting warmer and nicer, thank goodness. And then summer's coming. So with that in mind, I wanted to have Christy on again to talk about some ideas about how to manage caregiving on the go, and what kind of tools and resources that we have available for you. I will personally share at the end a little bit about my workshop, Caring on the Go workshop series, and there's some free PDFs and checklists in there that can help you with that. So that information will be linked below as well. But without further ado, in case people are meeting you now for the first time, if they missed part one, Christy, could you tell us briefly a little bit about yourself again?
Sure, absolutely. I am a licensed educational psychologist here in California, and I retired in 2021 after 20 years as a school psychologist. Prior to that, I worked in the mental health industry for quite a while in a number of different roles. So I've kind of been in this whole case management, mental health, caring community for quite some time, most of my career really. And in 2015, I lost both my parents. Both my parents passed away 7 weeks apart, and they both had some form of dementia. And actually, other things actually led to their deaths. But it was that time period that I was also raising two children who were tweens and teens, two kids who are young adults now, um, with my husband. And it was just, I didn't realize that I was part of the sandwich generation until it was done. And then I was like, what is this? But people kept coming to me saying, what did you do about this? How did you handle that? And I thought, we just aren't talking a lot about this. So I had done a lot of journaling, and I decided to put a lot of that into a book. I took a year off, took a little sabbatical, and I think 20, see, because I was in schools for so long, I think school years is my years, right? September to, so,
I love
but
it.
I took the 2017, 2018 school year off. I think did a lot of soul searching, a lot of work, a lot of research, whatever. Anyway, I produced my book, wrote my book. It was finally published in 2021, right when I took early retirement. So it was a perfect little match. And now I've just been really, my mission is to raise the conversation about the sandwich generation and what this time period means, because it really affects a large swath of the population. I've also become sort of a dementia specialist. I've taken a number of classes and courses and certifications because I am totally a learning geek. This is the educational psychologist in me. But I look at those things too. So I love having conversations like this, and talking about caregiving on the go is so important because it just really plays into so many things. So that's a little bit about me.
I love it. Yeah, and carrying on the go, guys. It's not to stress you out, but it's just a reality. And I'm not, and yes, I'm talking about thinking about worst case scenario in terms of like 911 and, having to get leverage, the emergency response system. Do you have all the stuff that you've heard me time and time again talk about having, like current medical history, current dates of diagnosis, medications, doctors, medications, all those things to help you get the best quality of care for your loved one in that moment, to where they're stabilized and the emergency that is happening in that present moment is addressed. But also, too, I want you to think about caring on the go through the lens of just daily stability too, because things change. And obviously, with dementia or chronic illnesses like say epilepsy, like what my husband has, it's it's a roller coaster. No 2 days are totally the same. And as part of the caregiving role is that it's your job to have everything you need in terms of information, and also, yes, medications, maybe medical supplies on hand wherever you're at, so you can keep your loved one safe and stabilized, so they in turn can have the best quality of life. So obviously for me, it would translate into having rescue medications, notes about his medicines, uh, important dates of diagnosis, phone con, phone numbers and emails and addresses of current medical providers in terms of primary providers, specialists, because as we know, everything's digital. So if your a loved one does end up in an urgent care facility for treatment or the hospital, and then they get admitted, all that information of what was done in terms of assessment and treatment will get sent to their primary doctors or a specialist, so they can be in the headspace about what's going on. But thinking about that, planning for that can be overwhelming. So, Christy, when we're thinking about getting ready to go out, whether it's for 30 minutes to run to the grocery store or for several days, if, like we talked about, the weather is warming up and people are getting more ambitious to maybe want to try to get out and about for a while, or maybe people have been um, hesitant about getting out and living life because they're like, gosh, my loved one's sick. There's so much that I need to think about. How can we simplify it for them to where they can still live life, because we only have this one life. And yes, your loved one might be struggling with a health condition, but that doesn't mean that life has to stop.
Right. 100%. Yes. And I would say a couple things. Number one, it's really important for self-care that life doesn't stop for you. Um, it may feel really hard to take time for yourself, but it is not a selfish act to take time for yourself. It is absolutely an integral part of being a good caregiver, because when you are completely worn out because you haven't had any time to yourself or with friends, that's when you're going to crash. And when you crash, I think of it as like, do you ever see those people who spin plates, and all the plates are spinning?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
you're spinning a lot of plates. And if you are tired and cranky and worn out, plates are going to start crashing to the ground. So, so that's the first thing. So I love that you said, getting out in the world, because it is really important to do that. Whether it's with your person or not, I would absolutely
Yes.
advocate for doing things on your own too. Could be with friends, but you've got to take care of yourself. And we are programmed in a lot of ways to think of that as selfish. I think definitely women have gotten that message, but the deal is, it is absolutely critical. And if you're a parent, also, there's this belief that we have to do everything with our kids all the time. And you know what? It's okay to take time away from your kids too. That doesn't mean you don't love them. And that's a great conversation for you to have with your kids about why does mom need a little time to herself? Because I'm a little stressed out right now. Do you ever feel stressed out or overwhelmed, or like there's a lot going on? Wow, you know what? I feel like that right now too, and here's why I'm doing these things. So you've done two things in that conversation. You've acknowledged to them, you have role modeled to them that it's okay to talk about your feelings and how you're feeling. And you've said, so here's what I'm doing. You've shown them how you're taking care of it. What a great lesson for your kids, that they'll learn, A, I can acknowledge my feelings, and B, I can do something about it. I can start to take care of myself. Really good stuff. In terms of like being a caregiver, though, things are getting really hard on a lot of ways. And then there's some real advancements. Back in I started really caring for my parents in earnest probably around 2012, and I started to amass all this paperwork, and I had binders of stuff, right? I eventually had power of attorney paperwork and healthcare advocate designee paperwork, things that would allow me to talk to doctors or talk to financial professionals. But I had those all in binders. That's like a lot of stuff to carry around, and really not all that much more secure than other things people might be using nowadays, digital stuff, because the binder was in my car. It might have been in my trunk, but if the car had gotten stolen or something, there's all my
Hmm.
stuff. It's not like it's confidential just because it's in a binder and on paper. We're reluctant sometimes because of digital break-ins and things like that to keep things digitally. But here's a couple things. One is if you have access to your parents or your whoever you're caring for, their medical insurance portal to get to talk to their doctor, um, have that login information, because if you head to the emergency room for some reason, they're going to want an updated medical list, and you can get into that system and get them something really updated, right?
Hmm.
Or you can find tech tools that can help you. There's a couple that are really great. You could do really old school stuff and keep copies of things on a Google Drive and access that through your phone. I just have to tell you, your phone, this goes with you everywhere, doesn't it? Binders
Yes.
don't, but your phone is with you. So what you can keep there to access, what you could keep it on your phone, or you could keep it on an app on your phone, or you can use your phone to access other portals to be able to get the information you need. But those are critical pieces of information. You need to have legal permission to talk to certain people. So, like my parents both had dementia, but before they were diagnosed with dementia, we had done the paperwork to be able to have me as their power of attorney. So then I had legal right to talk to doctors. It's a little different with young children, minor children. You might have more ability to do that, but even your children over the age of 18, you might not, right? I mean, you got to think about that too. How can you have them fill out some paperwork? Almost every insurance plan has like a portal into their advanced healthcare directive stuff that they have for their plans. So complete yours, help your adult children complete theirs, find out what your parents or your person has. Those are just things that I think are really important. In terms of other tech tools, there's one that I like a lot. And full disclosure, I am an affiliate of theirs. So I want to be clear about it, but I really like it. It's called KinKeeper, and you can keep a lot of stuff on that, and the security is really, really high grade. And I like the company a lot. I have spoken with the owner quite a bit, and it's really solving the binder problem. The owner and I laughed. I was like, "Hey, I carry binders." She's like, "Yeah, this is solving for that binder problem, because wherever you go." But then I could just email something or airdrop it or whatever to whatever person might need it, or print it out. You can print things
Yeah.
from your phone. So those are some things that are important. There's some other caregiver apps that are really fantastic. So if you go to like aarp.org, they have some great recommendations of other tech tools that can help you and Caring Bridge is another one that has a lot of recommendations for tech tools in particular. But I think knowing how to access that, get yourself familiar with what are you going to need. So at the minimum, it's a current medication list, a current diagnosis list, right? You can get that from a doctor and have those available to you somehow. Scan them, keep them somewhere, because that's what people are going to want to know right away. What was the last medication they took, that kind of thing. This with your
Mhm.
spouse and how critical it is to keep up to date with all of that stuff.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and
Absolutely.
we're holding all this information in our head. And if you're a sandwich caregiver, you might have one or two, three, five, whatever, how many kids you've got, and you're keeping all that in your head, and then somebody else you're caring for. And the thing that happens is if there's an emergency, your ability to think clearly also is compromised a little bit. I'm not saying it's completely compromised, but if you're a little stressed out, this is when the blinders go on and you can't always remember everything, right? And so
Exactly.
trying to rely on your memory to get it all straight is not a recipe for success. Okay. So I would say do the things you do the things you can do to kind of backfill so you're not relying on memory, but you know how
Mhm.
to get to what you need. So that's what it's really important.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing I love. I love that you're bringing up the phone because again, we have it with us all the time,
Right.
unfortunately. And it's, and like, right now I'm recording this episode and I'm in my office, but my husband's in a different part. So I have my phone close by in
Yeah.
case he needs me. So, but the same thing is true with information. I'm very picky with what apps I choose, both for my business and in terms of my caregiving journey and how I do my bills. If it has an app or a website, you better believe I'm bookmarking it. I'm downloading it onto my phone, because I can't always, because realistically, I know a lot of us do still have the practice of having computers at home, but we can't lug a computer around. And the
You
way they
can't.
have phones, that's the advantage of the phones that we have now in this day and age, is
Yeah.
that we can ditch the binder and we can leverage technology to help us be more efficient and proficient with our caregiving needs and our
Right.
caregiving skills. And if you don't want to go the route too of doing necessarily scanning all the documents, but you have the information written, type it into a Google Doc.
Right.
Google Doc is accessible both on your phone and on your laptop or iPad. And then again, like the benefit of sometimes it is still good to have a hard copy because
Oh, for
maybe
sure.
you're
For
there
sure.
and you have different information, maybe your phone goes down. It's still good to have another
Right.
means of getting that information. So then frequently, once a week, once a month, once a quarter, go in and update that document so it is the most current, omit what needs to not be there. But
Right.
it can be an ongoing document. Sometimes you can obviously um, just leave it there, but then and it does show because the thing with information is that medical professionals, speaking from my experience in 15 years of healthcare, is I'm looking for the big picture. I need to
Yeah.
know where they've been, what's currently going on, and then taking the information of where they've been and what's currently going on to kind of get me a trajectory and a plan for where they're going to go, of what their needs are, like how fast they're going to decline in health, what's if they've started a new treatment, what are the side effects, so I know to be on watch for those so we can nip those in the butt as fast as possible and tweak the care and tweak their treatments so they have the best quality of life. We've had to do this real recently in real time with my husband. He's in the process now of transitioning off of one drug and onto another, but it has to be done over several weeks for
Yeah.
safety.
And that's
And
hard.
I've already had to call in a couple times, not
Yeah.
necessarily because he's had breakthrough seizures, but more because of just side effects and
Yeah,
just
for
going,
sure.
okay, what can we do to make the process of getting him onto this new medication and off of this old one
Right.
a more smoother process so he can still work, so he can still
Right.
play with his daughter, so he can still,
Yeah.
even just communicate with me and not feel like he's struggling or fumbling over his language to be able to communicate if he needs something or even just to have a pleasant conversation, right?
Right.
For quality of
Right.
life. So, how can you store that information in the best way? I mean, honestly, I still have the binder in there, but I'm definitely looking at being in that transitional phase too of getting totally to digital.
Yeah.
So
And
how
I
can we do that in a more proficient way is what we're going for here, guys.
right. And I want to say I would definitely say have a backup. I mean, and
Yeah.
paper is really important and keep that in a safe place that's accessible in your
Mhm.
home because so know where that is. Um,
Uh-huh.
and the other things that you need to know, right? I mean, we have a lot of paperwork in our life, and so
Yes.
we have things. It might be a lease agreement, it might be a mortgage, it might be your bank account,
Bank
whatever it is.
accounts,
But you,
trust funds,
yeah, and you need
asset accounts, savings accounts, login to information. This is a big one for me that I had to kind of do on the fly after my dad died. I mean, we did the plus sign, the thumbs up that we got my name on the account so I could be able to talk to a rep about the bill. But then after he passed, realizing he never created an online account. He always did things
Yeah.
over the phone. So like when I was trying, because I'm the person I like to go into the account and be able to see things electronically to get information. I couldn't do that, so we had to
Yeah.
kind of and of course I didn't remember all of his. He never set up an account. There was no backup password. There was
Right.
nothing like that to fall back on. So we were like, okay, how do we jerry rig
Right.
this? Because we had to kind of figure out how to jerry rig his accounts to delete them or transition them into my name. And it was all a thing. So login
Right.
information for insurance, financial
Well,
stuff, bank account, and then like bills is a big
right.
one.
And you're bringing up a really good one. This is kind of my thing. I feel like the thing that will take me out is passwords. This is like what will
Yeah.
kill me
So
in the end
secure
is
login
passwords,
password.
right?
Phones have
But
password apps all built in on their phone. That's one. Or LastPass has become one of my favorites too. And
LastPass, one
yes,
password is very, it's just the number one password is a good one. I have something called um, oh, it's called Keeper on my phone, but I can't remember the name of it. But I have to keep those in there because I need because I can't remember every password, right? I
no, and
mean,
we want it to be secure.
and
And
then you
what I
have to
like about
change
those
them all
apps
the
is that
time.
and the cool thing about those apps too, guys, is that they have a system for generating secure passwords so you can
Yes.
change it. So if it's been a while, you can change it
Yes.
and you don't have to, and then you can just copy and paste it. So it's great. So
Right.
so just
Because
think about how you can do that safely. Yeah.
Right, because you may have that on your it may be automatically saved on your laptop and you can open up a browser and boom it's there, but then you're somewhere else and you need to access it some remotely and then if you don't have that, so it is important to find a password keeper that you feel good about and that feels
Mhm.
safe. So
Mhm.
yes, phones have them, and then you can purchase some that can be really helpful. So look at one that makes sense to you. It has to
Yeah.
work for you.
Yeah.
And it has to be one that you can access pretty easily. But those are some of the big things. I think then it's just a matter of, I really feel like as a caregiver, you need a go bag. And
Yes.
I relate this to like if you are a parent, um, you probably had a diaper bag or a go bag for that for
Mhm.
with your kids. And I want you to think about those days before you had kids and you could get out of the house in 15 minutes if you needed to, right? And then you had kids and it was an hour and a half just to get out the door, right? So when you're a caregiver, it feels like that too. There's all these things you have to assemble, but having something specific to take with you and the things you want to keep in there, and this is something you want to keep in your car if you have a vehicle. Maybe you're somebody who lives in a place that you don't have a vehicle. Maybe you live in New York City and you're on the subways all the time. But
Yes.
then you need a go bag with, at minimum, a phone charger, a pair of socks, probably, maybe a water bottle, a refillable water bottle, right? Empty but refillable, so that when you're at the ER, you can go get some water if you need it. You don't have to be purchasing plastic bottles all day long. So things like that are really important. But in your vehicle, keep chargers because our phones wear out. They won't last forever. So we do have to recharge from time to time. If you want to get a battery pack that can attach to your phone or some other charger, that's great too. But just have those essentials in a place like I always have them in my car, but then I have a go bag that has that stuff in them too. So I have
Mhm.
duplicated things because I don't, in a flash, I need to just get out the door and I want to make sure I have what I need and I don't have to think about assembling things.
Yeah.
So that's what's really important is you're just trying to, I make it sound like we're facing the apocalypse and some days it feels like that, but it is really about being able to move quickly and take not to rely completely on your memory. In some ways our phones have become our brains and that's good and bad
Mhm.
because also as a cognitive psychologist, I do know that it's important to keep using your brain and not relying completely on
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah.
There's a lot of benefit to pen and paper writing. So if you're not a journaler, I would encourage you to consider that. That's another conversation. But in the meantime, in these emergencies or even just quick turnarounds and things, when things are in a good place, that's the time to plan and organize and put it together. And then the other thing you can do is every time you have an emergency or an episode or something that happens where you had to run and take care of things, do a little debrief with yourself afterwards. Okay, oh wait, I need to have this in my go bag because I really needed this time. You start to learn what didn't I have, what didn't work out well, and you go back and you just kind of re-strategize because you can anticipate some things, but you can't anticipate everything. So I really do think
Right.
it's important to do a little forensic
Yes.
afterwards and look at what worked, what could I do better next time, what do I need? And that's just so important to keep learning. That's just learning. It doesn't mean you were
Yeah.
stupid. It doesn't mean you weren't good enough. It just means you didn't think of that. And why would you?
Right.
So there you
Right.
go.
And I want to add with the go bag, think about my go bag is pretty much is my purse. I keep a
Yeah.
backpack with me and I just use it. So, but one thing I admit I'm going to be blunt about and honest with you because I'm learning too. I actually just bought a new iPhone because it did crash and I had to get extra chargers and they came in a 2 pack. So I'm inspired. I'm going to put one in my go bag. In my go bag, it's my purse because I have a 5-year-old, or no, excuse me, 6-year-old, and so I have extra clothes in there anyway, and lotion because of my hand disorder, because I have to be careful because I when I expose, I just need a cream so I don't have a flare up. So, and then my husband's medicine, I always
Yeah.
just keep a stash of his rescue medicine because whether we're at church or I'm taking him to work or we're at the grocery store,
Yeah.
he could have an episode. So I always have his medicine. So I kind of always have a go bag. My go bag is with me all the time.
Excellent.
But yeah, like she said, just kind of learning. So I'm inspired. I definitely am going to let throw the extra charger when we're done.
Yeah.
Also, I would think about too, like from my experience of working in healthcare, think about things for comfort. Because if you do get into whether it's just a usual routine appointment, or or you're just on on a vacation, or it is an emergency, think about comfort. So besides the socks, I
Yeah.
would think about and the water bottle. I would think about maybe a sweater or a
Mm-hmm.
blanket because think about it, circulation, older people, their circulation just is not good. I'm almost 40, I have thyroid disease. I'm the one who's always cold, so I will
Yeah.
have a hoodie with me. So think
Right.
about comfort like that. Maybe some earbuds for music,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
comfort, or so they could watch a video, or you can, watch something while you're killing time, a book.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I'm a knitter, so maybe I throw a knitting project in
Excellent.
that bag. So just think about things for comfort.
Yeah.
Maybe snacks, non-perishable snacks,
Mm-hmm.
and that are specific to your loved ones' needs. Thinking about the vending machine, about having to go back, just like with the refillable water bottle. Think about, well, my loved one has certain health issues or intolerances, and so things in the vending machine probably would not go along with that. So then I'd
Right.
end up having a bellyache and a flare up after eating that. So think about other things and get creative. Think about your unique
Right.
situation, your loved one's unique situation, and what kinds of things you need. So certain apps that you want to download to your phone, how you want to organize it. Maybe it's also how you want, other items besides the no-brainers like the socks, the charger, the water bottle, non-perishable snacks, and like a sweater. But maybe there's some other things. Maybe
Right.
it is
Right.
keeping a book, a book in your go bag, so you always have something to read, or a
Sure.
journal, just to kind of something to kill time,
Yeah.
not just for you, or but also for your loved one, or maybe your kids,
Absolutely.
because there's
Yeah.
times where I've had to take my daughter with us
Of
when we've had
course.
medical appointments, and so I downloaded the PBS app on our phone, and she
Right.
watches her favorite shows on mute, so we don't distract people, but it gives her something to do. Or
Right.
one thing
Exactly.
she loves to do is she's in a phase where she really loves playing tic-tac-toe, so I found a free version of tic-tac-toe, so we play massive amounts of tic-tac-toe while we're in the waiting room on my phone. So
That's great.
think again, it's customizable and it's tweakable. And I
Yeah.
love the idea of a debrief because I mean, think about it. As business owners, every 90 days, we're
Yeah.
debriefing and we're thinking about what works, what doesn't. Caregiving is no different.
Right.
But obviously you may not be able to go 90 days. Maybe it's more like a week or a month. That's fine.
Yeah.
Do a debrief, figure out kind of observe and reflect on what
Yeah.
worked, what
Right.
didn't work, what can I ditch, and what really went well, and it's like, ooh, I'm running with this. I'm going to do that more often, or I'm going to implement this more, or I actually got a
Right.
better idea of a different tool that helps me do that better. So maybe storing everything on a Google Doc with all my passwords does not work very well, but actually using like LastPass or
Yeah.
the free password thing that comes on your phone works better, and give that 90 days. I
Yeah.
will say when you're trying anything, give it at least 90 days, because you
Yes.
need to
Yeah.
give it
You
some
do.
time to establish those habits, see really to give it some time to see really if
Yeah.
it works. If after 90 days you're frustrated, it's
Yeah.
just not working, then it's time to dip back into the idea bag and try something different. But give
Yeah.
it some time, because habits take time to
Yeah.
establish. And whether you're a business owner like we are, or a caregiver, or a parent, it takes time to establish a routine. So give it some
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and it's also a matter of things change, right? So
Hmm.
I will open up of sometimes I don't wait to kind of do the debrief. If something comes to mind, like I'm sitting somewhere and I'm like, dang it, I wish I had X, Y, and Z. I just open up a notes on my phone and I start typing
Hmm.
my thoughts. And then I can go back and use that to guide me as I think about things. But things change too, right? You have a 6-year old, right? In 5 years, you're going to have an 11-year-old. So what you needed for your 6-year-old, if you never took that out of your go bag, your 11-year-old is going to be like, yeah, that's not working for me. So you have to, you have
Right.
to, you have to. So get rid of what you don't need too, right? Like I
Hmm.
had all this stuff in my go bag and I never use this, so I'm getting rid of these things and I'm
Yeah.
going to add in the things I really do need. Your person is going to have differing needs too, right?
Hmm.
And I can tell you, anybody who is caring for anyone with any form of dementia, every day can be different. So you might not be able to anticipate every need.
Mm.
Forgive yourself for that. Really, really, really understand that you are doing the best you can. And that's what you need to do, is the best you can. And then forgive
Yeah.
yourself for those other things that aren't working. Typically, you can find what you need out there, right? I mean,
Mhm.
people are willing to help. If you're in an emergency room, it's busy, it's crazy. But I got to tell you, a lot of times people are willing to help you because they need you to be okay too, right? So they're going
Yes.
to do what they can. And it may be other people in the room that help you, but I have always found that asking for help is hard. It's a skill we can learn, but when we learn
Absolutely.
it, yeah, and when we learn it and we start asking for help, people help. And then if you've been somebody who's asked for help and received it, you're going to be more inclined to be the person helping another time. And you can
Mhm.
always pay that forward. So it's just, I believe in the goodness of people. And even though there are times when I feel like, mostly people are really, we connect on the human level and we want to help people. So it's important to remember that. But yeah, just take your time to walk through these things. And I do want to keep saying, be gentle with yourself. You might
Mhm.
not get it right the first time. That's okay. And really, it's not even about right or wrong. It's like it's kind of looking at it from a viewpoint of on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being everything went just great. Maybe this visit was a 7. What could bring it up a little bit? What could move it up to a 9? That's
Mhm.
where it's progress, not perfection. So just be gentle
Yes.
with yourself and keep learning and keep growing because things will
Yeah.
change.
Absolutely. And I want to say too, I love that progress over perfection. That is something I hear all the time from my coaches with my business. And it's something in caregiving too. I
Yeah.
mean,
And parenting, and
and
parenting for
parenting, yeah,
crying out
too. I mean,
loud.
honestly, in my healthcare career, I practiced as an aide for 15 years old, and I would say it wasn't really until year 7 or 8 that I finally got my groove. I finally got to a facility where people gave me the time of day. They realized that it's not that I was stupid or I was trying to ignore people. People just wouldn't give me the time of day to train me. And from there on, it got so much better because I
Yeah.
got the training I need. And then because I had had those struggles early on in my career where I did not get the time of day and the proper training, and even just learning to voice my needs, same thing goes as parallel with the caregiver. You have to advocate for yourself. um, I got to be in the position where had the privilege and honor of training
Yeah.
new employees for several facilities. Like the last 3 facilities I worked at, they trusted me. They let me train new employees when they hit the floor, and then also the last three facilities I worked at, we partnered with colleges where they were where CNA recruits would come in and get their 40 hours of clinicals in, and so I got to train so many students,
Yes.
and it was so much fun. I am so thankful I got to do that. And as a caregiver, a caregiver and business coach, I want to give you the same thing. There's
Yes.
no stupid question. The number one thing I remember I told my students or any new employee that I trained was that there's no stupid question. The
Yeah.
only stupid question is the question you don't ask.
Right.
So it's a learning curve, people go to school to be trained for months, years, and they spend thousands of dollars to
Yeah.
do this career, to do caregiving. We're not expecting you to spend thousands of dollars. We don't want you to spend thousands of dollars or have to spend 3 months, 3 months to years of your time to get the skills that you need. We want to help you today.
Right.
So if you're listening to this and you're feeling overwhelmed, just start simple. If you're
Right.
struggling with, I understand if tech is not your thing and you're not quite there yet, and you feel more comfortable starting with paper and pen for right now, that's fine. Check out my Carrying on the Go workshop series. I teach a lot of the same things that Christy talked about having a medical binder, medical history, comfort items, things like that in a go bag. It's on my website. I'll have a link below. You can buy it today and start there. And then
Yeah.
when you're ready, transition to digital. I'm
Yeah.
actually in this phase where I'm kind of transitioning more to digital too, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's no timeline of saying like from day one you have to be digital.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's benefits of it. I would be happier if you would just at least start having a system, even if it's written down somewhere, and having a filing system to where you know to find that information
Yeah.
and you get in the rhythm,
Yeah.
than thinking of not starting at all and being analysis paralysis because, oh, I don't want to learn a new
Right.
app. I don't want to learn technology. I don't want to do
Right.
it. I
Right.
don't want you to do that. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
want you to do
Yeah.
that.
Well, and you bring up a really good
So
point, talking about being trained and then being a trainer. I have to tell you, when I was a school psychologist, and I was for 20 years, eventually I started having interns, right? And it was fantastic. It was a lot of work to train a new young person, and I had to think out loud about what I was doing because they were asking me questions, and I realized I am embedding and re-embedding information that I long forgot that I knew, and it just helps you as a professional sharpen your saw a little bit when you teach someone else. So you may not have the opportunity to have interns or train somebody, but I think of it too then as a parent. If you're in the sandwich generation and you have kids at any age, there are things you're going to help them learn how to do. And when you teach somebody how to do something, you relearn things that you long forgot. You have to get yourself out of your shortcuts a little bit because we all take little shortcuts here and there, but you have to pull yourself out of that and go, no, I need to think about, okay, why is that? Okay, here's why we do it this way. But helping your kids learn how to cook helps you, remember a recipe that you loved, or helping them learn how to do a task in the home helps you also kind of see things a little differently. And then, but it might be teaching them about self-care and teaching them about learning how to ask for help. You are role modeling this all the time, and that's important. Yeah, so I think it's really important to lean into those kinds of things and how you're helping your kids and your loved ones that you're caring for, that kind of thing.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot. I'm not making, small fry of anything that you're going
No.
through on your caregiving journey. It's hard. Kristen and I both been there. We both have been sandwich generation. A couple years ago, y'all, it was crazy for me. I had a 4 to 5 year old, and then I had, well, actually, it was from the time she was three. So from the time that she was three to the time that she was five, I was my daughter anyway. I was caring for my husband, my epileptic husband, and then I was also caring for my father, and he was in the last
Yeah.
in stages of his life, and he had, it wasn't dementia, but same thing, kind of the whoa of information,
Right, right.
imploding in your brain, with, because he had like three or four health
Right.
issues,
And
so it
that
was
can bring on a
insane.
lot of things. That can bring on a
Yeah.
lot of delirium and
Hmm.
confusion, and
Yeah.
seniors that are in emergency ward rooms and things like that, medical emergencies or crises can bring on a lot of cognitive issues where we
Oh,
get confused, we might seem forgetful, we might even be delirious. And that's
yeah.
not uncommon for seniors in particular when they're in a hospital. They're out of their orientation zone. They don't know it's different, and that's hard.
Yeah, so it's a lot. So
Hmm.
I want you definitely, if you get nothing from this episode, I just want you to start creating a system of
Yeah,
something to let that can be your backup plan, your fallback. It's just tool that you can
yeah,
fall back on when you're out and about. And if something happens, whether it's something cataclysmic where you're leveraging a 911 and God forbid the hospital, or
yeah,
maybe it's just with how to just better daily micromanage their illness on the go. So you are having get or not having, but you're able to give, excuse me, you're able to give yourself more bandwidth to just cope throughout the day. So what can you do? How can you
yeah, yeah,
start? What can you do? And
yeah.
that's all that we're going for here. We're going for small baby steps. I mean, honestly, y'all, I did not get where I'm at overnight,
No,
with my work and I do now, or even when I was a CNA. Like I said, it took me several years, half my
right.
career, before I really felt like I truly had my groove. And I hope it doesn't take that long for you, but just understand that it is a process and it will be
Yeah,
different for everyone. Chrissy's journey is different than mine, and the number of people listening to this episode is going to be different for each of you from us. But the idea here is that we just want to give you support, encourage you, and the tools and the knowledge that we have from our experiences to help you fast track it a little bit to where you're not pulling your hair out so much. So
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
whole idea. So
yeah.
Christy, where can we find more Christy Yates?
So my website is christyyates.com, and I spell Christy Christy, last name Yates. So it's CHRISTYYATES.com. Pretty straightforward. I like to just say, oh, it's my name, Christy Yates, but there are 500 ways to spell Christy and probably a few different ways to spell Yates. So there you go. That's mine. Um, and you can find a lot of information there. So it kind of, and there's a lot of free resources that you can download too. So I have different things: how to talk to kids about dementia, how to ask for, I have an infographic on how to learn how to ask for help. And I have a YouTube channel that's also Christy Yates. So if you go to YouTube, Christy Yates, you can find that. And I have a video about those things. Another one I want to point out is I do write for other outlets. And one that I really love, if you haven't found this yet, as a caregiver, it's called The Conversation Project. And that's the URL, theconversationproject.org. And I wrote a piece there about how to talk to your employer about being a caregiver. Employers, I think, are trying to step up and support caregivers because there are so many of us out there who are working, and we may not be entrepreneurs, but even if you are an entrepreneur, there's a lot of great conversation starters in the Conversation Project. So those are some of the things that I have out there for you.
I love it. I love it. Well, as always, information about Christy will be included below, as well as a link to my Carrying on the Go workshop series, which you can get on my website as well. And also, just guys, just remember that you're not alone in this journey. I'm here to support you in your caregiving journey. Christy's another great liaison. Any guest I bring on, whether it's targeting self care, caregiving, or business, whatever the case may be, it's to nurture you
Yeah.
and help you feel less alone, less overwhelmed in your caregiving journey. So, Christy, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Caregiving and Entrepreneurship Reimagined podcast. Be sure to connect with Christy via the links below with all of her information. And I hope to see you again next week for another episode of the Caregiving and Entrepreneurship Reimagined podcast. Take care, everyone.